Hello, today I'm looking at Majjhima number 38, which is also known as the MahaTanhasankhaya Sutta, or the Greater Discourse on the Destruction of Craving. And the location is Savatthi in Jettas Grove, and the people mainly involved are Buddha and a monk or bhikkhu called Sati, plus the other followers of Buddha. Now, a pernicious view has arisen in the monk called Sati, and this view was that, as I understand the Buddha's Dhamma, it is this same consciousness that runs through the round of rebirths. Other monks refuted this view, stating that Buddha has said consciousness is dependently arisen, since without a condition there is no origination of consciousness. Sati was not to be dissuaded from his view. Upon meeting with Buddha, Sati restates his view. As I understand the Dhammas taught by the Blessed One, it is this same consciousness that runs and wanders through the round of rebirths. And what is this consciousness? Buddha asks. It is that which speaks and feels and experiences from results of good and bad actions, is the response. Buddha replies in exasperation, have I not stated in many ways that consciousness is dependently arisen? Without a condition there is no origination of consciousness. Buddha then asks the other assembled monks if they have correctly understood the Dhammas. They replied that they have. Buddha then goes on to explain, consciousness is classified by the particular condition upon which it is dependent. Thus, when consciousness arises dependent on the eye and the shapes that the eye perceives, that is eye consciousness. When consciousness arises dependent on the ear and sounds that the ear hears, then that is ear consciousness. Similarly with nose and aromas, tongue and flavours, body and tactile sensations, mind and ideas. Buddha then narrates a simile. Just as a fire is dependent upon what is being burnt, like a fire from wood is a wood fire, a fire from grass is a grass fire, a fire from cow dung is a cow dung fire, so too consciousness is reckoned by the particular condition dependent upon which it arises. Thus, consciousness that arises dependent on eye and shape is classified simply as eye consciousness. Consciousness that arises dependent on ear and sound is classified simply as ear consciousness. The sutta then goes on into a question and answer between Buddha and the monks. Buddha asks, do you understand this has arisen? Yes, reply the monks. Buddha then asks, do you understand what has arisen occurs with stimulation? Yes, reply the monks. Do you understand that with the end of that stimulation, what arose ceases? Yes, replies the monks. Buddha continues, does doubt arise when one is uncertain an event has occurred? Yes, is the reply. Does doubt arise when one is uncertain that the event occurred due to stimulation? Yes, Venerable Sir. Does doubt arise when one is uncertain that with the ending of that stimulus or stimulation, what arose ceases? Yes, Venerable Sir. So, is doubt abandoned when one sees it as it actually is, with proper wisdom? An event has occurred? Yes, Venerable Sir. Is doubt abandoned when one sees it as it actually is, with proper wisdom? Its beginning occurred with something as a stimulus? Yes. Is doubt abandoned in one who sees it as it actually is, with proper wisdom? With the ending of the stimulation, what has arisen ceases? Yes, Venerable Sir. The above is then repeated by Buddha, prefaced by Buddha asking each time, are you thus free from doubt? An event has occurred. Are you thus free from doubt its beginning occurred with something as a stimulus, and so on. This then repeats with Buddha starting by saying, has it been seen well by you as it actually is with proper wisdom? Thus an event has occurred. Its beginning occurred with something as a stimulus, and so on and so on. So, monks, Buddha concludes, would you also understand that the Dhamma is taught similar to a raft, being for the purpose of crossing over and not for the purpose of clinging to? Yes, Venerable Sir, and this part is a repeat of Majjhima number 22. And then it gets back to this particular sutta. Buddha then says, there are 4 kinds of stimulus or nutriments for the maintenance of beings. The first is physical food. The second is contact. The third is mental volition or intellectual intention, as translated by Thanissaro. And the fourth is consciousness. And what is the source of these 4 stimuli? Their origin. From what are they born and produced? They have craving as their source, as their origin. They are born and produced from craving. And craving has what as its source, its origin, from what it is born and produced. Craving has feeling as its source. And feeling has contact as its source. And contact has the 6-fold base as its source. And the 6-fold base being the smell, touch, taste, hearing, seeing, so on. And the 6-fold base has mentality, materiality as its source. Now, mental materiality or mentality, materiality is Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation of the term namarupa. Thanissaro refers to it as name and form, and it literally means Nanarupa in Pali, literally means name, body. So it could be translated as being the individual or the being, which is what the Rhys Davids translation is. So to continue, and mentality, materiality has consciousness as its source, and consciousness has formations or volitional formations as its source, and formations have ignorance as their source. Ignorance as their origin, they are born and produced from ignorance. So this word ignorance used here, I understand refers to a lack of knowledge. So the Pali word is avijja, which is the opposite of vijja, and vijja translates as knowledge. So ignorance, I would understand to mean the lack of knowledge of the 4 Noble Truths. That is, one is in the round of births and deaths due to the lack of knowledge of the Dhamma, the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path and so on. And that is, this ignorance leads to rebirth, samsara. And this round of life or whatever is called the 12 nidanas. So ignorance leads to formations, leads to consciousness, leads to name and form, leads to 6 sense bases, leads to contact, leads to feeling, leads to craving, leads to clinging, leads to becoming, which leads to birth, which leads to old age and death, and so it goes round. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering, says Buddha. The Buddha then goes on to question the monks. Do aging and death have birth as a condition? Yes. Does birth have being as a condition? Yes. Does being have clinging as a condition? And so it repeats on through the 12 nidanas. And then, having asked the question of the monks, Buddha then restates the 12 nidanas back to the monks. And after restating the 12 nidanas, this time he repeats again, but starts with the proposition: with the cessation of ignorance comes the cessation of formations. With the cessation of formations comes the cessation of consciousness. And so it goes on through the nidanas, concluding with, such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. And again, this is repeated, starting with the question this time, do aging and death cease with the cessation of birth? Yes, and so on and so on. And this assertion about cessation by the monks is then repeated back to the monks by Buddha. Buddha then asserts, knowing and seeing this way, there will be no doubts or questions about past existence, present existence, or future existence. What here existed, or will exist, or currently existed. The rounds of conditionality, that is, lead to past, present, and future. Then Buddha checks with his followers that this is their own conclusion, that it is fully understood by examination, and the agreement is not just because they venerate the Buddha. The question is, do you speak only of what you have known, seen, and understood for yourselves? Yes, replies the monks. So asserts Buddha that he has only been the guide. Buddha then continues, a person is born with three conditions met: a father, a fertile mother, and a Gandhabba. Now that's spelt Gandhabba in the Romanised version, and no translation is given in either the Bodhi or Thanissaro version, but there's some sort of guess as to what a Gandhabba is, and the conclusion it's some sort of the essence of the entity of the person, the essence of the entity being reborn. So there's the father, the mother, and the Gandhabba. The embryo is born after 9 or so months, fed with the mother's milk, grows up, plays with toys, and as his faculties mature, he enjoys the sense pleasures, forms cognisable by the eye, sounds cognisable by the ear, so on and so on. Things that are wished for, desired, agreed, likeable. On seeing a form with the eye, he lusts after it if it is pleasing, dislikes it if it is unpleasing. Mindfulness is unestablished. He does not understand as it actually is, that with wisdom, evil and wholesome states cease without remainder. He delights in feeling, whether pleasant, unpleasant or neutral, and that delight in feeling leads to clinging, and with clinging as condition, he comes to be. With being as a condition is birth. With birth as a condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair arise. Such is the origin of the whole mass of suffering. And then this is repeated again for the other senses, the sound sense, the taste sense, smell sense, and so on. And then Buddha says, then a Tathagata appears in the world, accomplished, fully enlightened. And then follows a repeat of the Sutta number 27, which describes the Tathagata's path to enlightenment, taking up the life of a mendicant or homeless person, following the precepts and practicing meditation through to the 4th jhana. On seeing form with eye, he does not, and then once he is a Tathagata, on seeing form with eye, he does not lust after it, if it is pleasing. He does not dislike it, if it is unpleasing. He abides with mindfulness of the body established, and he understands as it actually is. The deliverance of mind and deliverance by wisdom, wherein those evil and wholesome states cease without remainder. Having thus abandoned favouring and opposing, whatever feeling he feels, whether pleasant or painful or neutral, he does not delight in that feeling, welcome it, or remain holding on to it. And so delight in feelings ceases, and with cessation of this delight, clinging ceases, and with the cessation of clinging, being ceases, and with the cessation of being, birth ceases, and with the cessation of birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair cease. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. And then this repeats for the other senses, the sound, sense, smell, taste, touch, and mind objects. And in conclusion, Buddha says, Remember this talk on the destruction of craving, and remember the Bhikkhu Sati, who's caught up in this net, on this vast web of craving. And so ends Majjhima Nikaya number 38. Thanks for watching.